Okay. All right. So for our last speaker, and this is a last edition, so thank you very much to Stuart Clark for being able to make it in such short notice. So Stuart, if you can, wait, there's Stuart. So Stuart is Dr. Stuart Clark, runs the Expanded Universe Limited Communication Consultancy and content creation agency especially geared towards the space and high-tech physics sectors. His background is in infrared astronomy, and Stewart is the Director of Communications of the ESSI. Stewart, you can start sharing your screen. The floor is yours.
Well, thank you so much. Hopefully you can all hear me and you can see this screen that I've got here. I'm so sorry that I'm not in La Palma itself. And as you've heard, this was a last-minute edition, and I want to thank very, very much the symposium organisers for giving me this opportunity to talk about this initiative that's taking place here in the UK, but spreading out across the world. And we have already engaged with a number of you in the hall and participants in this symposium. And throughout this talk, I will emphasize that we would like to engage much more with you. Now, as you heard, my background is in astronomy, so this is where I'm coming from. But this year, I have been working with the Earth and Space Sustainability Initiative, which is a new venture funded by the UK Space Agency. And officially launched at the Royal Society at the Global Leaders for Space Sustainability Summit on June the 28th.
Excuse me, sorry to interrupt. Can you please put your presentation in full screen?
Oh, I beg your pardon.
No, sorry. Thank you.
There we go. Is that better? So the Earth and Space Sustainability Initiative, this is taken from our mission statement, really, dedicated to enhancing and developing the use of space for all life and future generations. And that's a fairly broad brush distinction there. To achieve this goal, what we will be doing over the coming months and indeed several years is developing a set of space sustainability principles that we then will facilitate the establishment of actual space sustainability standards. And we're already engaged with the British Standards Institute here to work out how that is going to happen. And where we are coming from here is that we want to ensure that all of this is inclusive. Space is now a place of huge interest and importance, not just to astronomers. And so we want to understand this new landscape and work with everyone that is a stakeholder in that and wants to use space for whatever reason. And so we believe that uniquely the SZ approach brings together these following worlds. Obviously, the global space industry, finance, insurance, IT, academia, and here is where us astronomers are involved in the process, but also governments, regulators, policymakers, other international organizations, and as we'll come on to later, crucially, the public across the world. We can't stem the tide, as it were. We can't put the genie back in the bottle. If we talk to industry partners, well, there's just so many opportunities to offer services from space. There's no way to stop these launches. These just show, this slide here just shows a small list of some of the new services. And clearly the UK is a significant contributor to all of these activities. It wants to lead or develop a critical capabilities for rendezvous and proximity operations, for example. And we believe at SE that the only way of ensuring the sustainable use of space for all of us is that we have to come up with some way of incentivizing good good behavior in inverted commas, and first understanding what that good behavior looks like and how we can all get along. The initial catalyst for ESSI was begun with the publication of the long-term sustainability of outer space activities, these LTS guidelines from the UN. And I should say right here that the driving force behind ESSI is Joanne Wheeler from Alden Legal. And she has worked tirelessly for over 4 years now to try to establish some sort of initiative that brings together all the different players from all the different sectors, and so that we can discuss and understand what we need to do to all have a future in the use of space. So these guidelines are just that. It's fascinating to hear in the previous discussion as well about how difficult it is to get these into binding regulations, and that the difficulty that we have if certain states implement these guidelines at regulatory level, but others do not. There's also concerns as well that in this fast moving situation where people are coming up with new uses, new technologies for on-orbit work all the time, that the guidelines that they exist at the moment go out of date very quickly. So here at ESSI, what we would like to do is be as diverse, inclusive, and transparent as we can possibly be in our engagement with everyone who has a stake in using outer space for whatever reason, whether that's some sort of active use of space in actually putting hardware up there, or simply want to look at the night sky and the universe for scientific reasons, or just for individual and cultural reasons of wanting to use and look at the night sky. So the approach that we have is to try to answer the question, how can we drive sustainable behavior? Because the difference, we think, will only come when there's some sort of level playing field. And so perhaps the best way to do that is to find ways to incentivize industry to adopt these sustainable behaviors. That must be achieved in a way that doesn't unduly hinder commercial activities and innovation, because, as we said, there are many potentially conflicting interests in play here. But at the same time, we don't want to simply have the base level that we can possibly get away with. There should be an ambition to do better than that. And so another question that we're asking ourselves is, how do we incentivize a kind of race to the top in sustainable practices? It's very clear that certain sectors, such as insurance and finance, are putting ever more importance on companies conducting themselves in line with environmental, social, and governance criteria. And this seems to us to be some sort of, perhaps that is the way to try to incentivize in some way the sustainable behavior. And we believe that good regulations, whenever they come, should lead to sustainability goals, that industry and investment enabling. As we said, that comes from some of the criteria that's now being in place for ESG in finance and insurance, and that these good regulations should take into account social and cultural aspects of the use of space as well. And whenever I talk about cultural aspects, I want to include science and astronomy in that as well. So we should also realize that the orbital space around the Earth is finite in nature, and also so is the spectrum that's used to communicate with our spacecraft. So that's the scale, or that's a quick overview, I should say, of where we are, the problem that as we've identified. And I also want to make a very big point here that there are a number of excellent initiatives that are taking place around the world looking at this problem. And we don't want ESI to be in any way seen as competition for any of those. Far from it. I think all of these initiatives are taking slightly different approaches. They're looking at slightly different aspects of all of this. And that is the absolute correct approach, so that whoever finds the breakthrough, whoever unlocks the key and finds the way to do this, we can share that widely. Where I think that ESI is unique is that we are trying to take a holistic view of all of this aspect, all the aspects of space sustainability. And to that end, we developed a memorandum of principles. At the launch of ESI on June the 28th, we presented a memorandum of principles for space sustainability that we drafted, widely consulted on. Many of you at the conference I know contributed to that. And in the end, we came away with that memorandum signed by 132 space companies, academic institutions, members of the finance and insurance communities, and other organizations that were interested in sustainability across all domains. And that memorandum is available on our website, which is simply essi.org. And this is just some of the words. I won't read it out. You can all read that for yourself. But we wanted to stress the fact that we know this is difficult. There are not going to be any easy solutions to this problem, and that compromise is going to have to be made. Discussions are going to have to be had, and there are going to be pinch points and roadblocks along the way. But if we can just keep talking and working out where we need to go, hopefully we can then recognize and we can recognize the value that arises from our relationship in space. And each of us have a different way of thinking about that value that arises from our relationship with space, and obviously the moon and the other celestial bodies as well. Those different values can be scientific or more cultural or socially based or even individually based. The sort of mental well-being and the feelings of awe that individuals get when they look up at the night sky. And it's important to remember that the night sky, I'm sure actually I don't need to tell any of you this, but the night sky that we look at today is the same night sky essentially that every sighted human being who's ever lived has looked at. It's the truly constant thing in human history, and it's become a metaphor for stability in this ever-changing human world. The space sustainability principles that we outlined in that memorandum are shown here. They cover a number of different aspects, running from the design, manufacture of spacecraft all the way through launch, the supporting operations, and all the way through. You'll see dark skies is in there. Quiet skies and spectrum sustainability, we have moved into a separate principle. We know that there is common ground in both of those, and that many approach those two in as a conjoined problem. We decided to separate them out because we think we can progress them at different speeds, and there might be a few more issues in quiet skies and spectrum sustainability that...
Sorry, Stuart, 5 minutes.
Yes, I beg your pardon, Federico.
5 minutes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So this is the scope of the principles. And communications, as I said earlier, is just such a huge part of what we're planning to do. And we have three prongs to that communications. Number one is that we want to keep talking with industry, finance, and insurance communities. And that in there, we include the academic community of astronomers as well. And a number of you have already participated in workshops that we ran last week and this week. We will be hosting a fortnightly drop-in on Teams for ESI going forward. Anyone who wants to receive those links and keep up with what we're doing, if you go to our website, esi.org, and go to the bottom, you will see our contact form there. You can sign up for the ESI bulletin, and that will arrive with you, and you'll get the links there. We want to go talk to the international community as well to see where the alignment is, where the differences are, and at least understand where we're all coming from. And then, as I mentioned earlier, there's a communications effort to the person on the street so that they recognize the great benefit and the importance of space across all uses and why sustainability there is key. This is as clearly obvious and truly international effort is needed. We have a number of international engagement opportunities that we're already involved in organizing and co-hosting, and we're positively looking for more of those. So again, if you have any ideas or offers to help with any of these, please contact us. The last slide then is for our next steps, and we are preparing at the moment the framework space sustainability principle that sort of canonizes the memorandum of principles, and that's gone into the British Standards Institute today for them to begin their work. And there's an industry and public consultation on that standard. Again, if you would like to be involved in that consultation, contact at esi.org, just email. We're also looking and running a little program on understanding the problems of carrying capacity, which is hugely contentious, and we're trying to get a handle on that. We will release a document of a database of space sustainability and space applicable standards later in this year. And then moving into next year, we will start the RPO principle, and we will continue work on the dark skies principle. Spacecraft design, manufacture, and propulsion will begin, and we'll be continuing with our ongoing comms and engagement. So that's a whistle stop of everything that's going on here. We have a lot of energy to do this, but we can't do it without your help and your engagement, because we would like to hear as many different opinions and as many different routes and suggestions for how we move forward as possible. So I'll leave it there, and thank you once again for this opportunity to talk. And if you have any questions, and if we have some time, I'm more than happy to answer.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Stewart, and thanks again for making time on such short notice. We see with very good eyes from the CPS the work you're doing, and we are looking forward to engage with you. So I'm looking for questions online. I don't see any questions from the floor. Don't think so. Okay. Ruskin over there, going once and twice. Okay, so we have time for one question. Ruskin.
So Ruskin Hartley with Dark Sky International. So fascinating presentation, and I think that the route of developing the principles to standards is really an interesting one. I note you're targeting British standards, and I wondered if you had considered looking at the route to get international standards established through ISO.
Yes, indeed. That's an absolutely excellent question. So the communications with ISO and the discussions there and bringing ISO committees into this right from day one, that's with the BSI. So that is something that we've absolutely thought about. and the BSI has its links across the Commonwealth as well. If you as well have any routes and can help us in that regard as well, we'd love to hear from you. But yes, it is definitely something that is in train and that we're pursuing.
Okay, we don't have time for more questions, but let's thank again, Stuart. Thank you very much. So.